and welcome to Vienna. Today we're attending the United Nations Development Organization conference in Vienna. Matters of importance to Africa are being discussed here. Climate change, agricultural development. Why don't we go inside and speak to those who are in charge, who are making the big decisions that affects all of us in Africa. Come inside with me. Good afternoon and welcome. Still at UNIDO, and now I have the privilege of speaking with Honorable Dr. Joseph Annan, the Minister for Trade and Industry from Ghana. Hello, Minister. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Welcome, Priscilla, the Deputy Minister for Trade.
Oh, thank you for correcting me. The Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well, thank you. It's great to meet you.
Thank you. Now, here we are in UNIDO. It's been a very, very exciting conference, I have to say. Third Industrial Revolution, agribusiness, and paradigm shifts, all of that. Let's go back to Ghana. First and foremost, recently Ghana has discovered oil. It's of a great interest to me because I come from a country where we have oil in abundance. But what I want to learn from you, and I hope you can help me here, is what Ghana is going to do. My hope is that Ghana will not will learn from the mistakes of Nigeria, I should say. Minister, please help me.
Very good. I think the important first step that we've taken since the government took office in Jonathan Mills in power in 2009 was to say, hey, we found oil, guess what? We are going to try to circumscribe and make sure that we continue with the program of value addition to existing sectors and diversification. Having said that, what we also did was to say, let's bring legislation to bear. So we have the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, which carefully looks at how to handle receipts from the petroleum sector. That is number one. And we are looking at the broader picture by ensuring that, of course, petroleum is about energy, it's about resources, but also we brought in renewable energy bill. It's also linked. So putting the pieces together to ensure A, oil revenues are managed, B, we don't have creeping in with the Dutch disease, to disrupt our...
I like that term, creeping in of the Dutch disease.
and disrupt, the hard-won gains of getting manufacturing going, adding value to our grid and moving into our areas, and indeed ensuring that the small and medium-sized enterprises are grow.
Now, we're talking about small and medium-sized enterprises. Again, that's something that's been talked about a lot here. What is one of the other things that's also been talked about here? Let me go back a step more. It's about industrialization. One of the things that plagues some of the other African countries with oil is that they don't build industries, refineries, for instance, that can refine the oil. Is that something that we can expect to see in Ghana, building of these refineries?
I think the downstream value addition to petroleum and gas, I think it's important to look at it in both dimensions, is extremely important. You see, take Singapore. Singapore, for example, has got a drop of oil that is one of the major centers for refining and refined products and the downstream value addition to petroleum products. I think that's a very interesting model. So what we see here in Ghana is that we're trying to use our oil find as a catalyst to have a mushrooming industry in the petrochemical area. Let me just mention that, for example, we just about to invest close to $1 billion in bringing the gas.
Billion cedis or billion dollars? Right.
Close to 900 million to bring the gas inshore, for which we are hoping to spur the fertilizer industry, obviously use the gas for all sides of even the motorist arena. We're going to sort of spur on the building industry through the firing of bricks, and many other things, and of course the petrochemical industry. So the plans are in place. What we need to do is to move fast and decisively to ensure that the infrastructures are put in place.
Okay. Now, is Ghana going to buy into some of the models that UNIDO is offering? I know that UNIDO has been very successful in other parts of the world, in Asia, in Latin America, with some of their models of industrialization. Is Ghana going to buy into that?
Ghana has already bought into it.
Okay.
I say that we had an extremely successful conference, 13th of March in Accra, attended by the Director General and a whole host of others. And it was about competitiveness and diversification, the strategic challenges in a petroleum-rich country. Now today we've heard about the diversification issue as far as the new industrial policy is concerned. Let me say that Ghana, this June 2011, launched its new industrial policy, supported by the industrial sector support program. We sought to do a number of things. One is to support production and distribution of raw materials, increase production, technology and innovation, and to bring in five sets of incentives and regulation to try to rethink our model of making Ghana an attractive place for foreign direct investment, to look at how those incentives have worked over the years and to make them work better. And fourthly, we're looking at cross-cutting issues in terms of human resources, the role of women, the fact that 90%, 80 or 90% of manufacturing is in the SME sector. How to bring all that together to support the growth that we already posted this year, and we have to say that by most accounts, we are the fastest growing economy in the world.
Indeed, yes.
About 13.4%.
That's right.
Now the challenge is how do we sustain it? And we are hoping that the policies that we put in place under the industrial sector support policy, and indeed the private sector support program is going to make it possible for us to look far ahead and sustain what we have started. We've started a number of years ago, right through for the next generation.
Now, you just mentioned there about the growth of Ghana's economy being 13.4, fastest in the world and indeed in Africa. Earlier on in the conference, the question was raised by Ghana actually, is this another talking shop?
First of all, it's important to note that much of what we've heard today, we've heard before. And what really it shows is a litany of business as usual. But I think it's important to look at this third wave of industrialization and see it as an opportunity for African countries to take charge themselves with all the attendant problems that we have, to be able to start to look at some key issues. First of all, let's look at the possibilities around us. Examine the endless possibilities around us. In Ghana, for example, we are supposed to be the fastest growing economy this year, 2011. Supposed to be at 13.4% GDP growth. What opportunities does that represent for a sustainable future? Now, once you've looked at the possibilities, we then need to look at the opportunities. And how do we sit around the table and negotiate opportunities? Because after 50 and more years of independence, the human resource and the leadership of Africa is capable of negotiating very strongly with our partners from overseas. So I think the critical issue here is that we have to take charge of our own business. Even when we're talking about the EPA, was mentioned of the development program and all that. Let's put all that aside. The future is with Africa. The future is one that requires that we take the human resource in Africa and understand that it is actually a benefit and not a curse to move into the future.
Because, you know, we attend these conferences every year, and I must confess, everybody sounds so wonderful, it sounds so good, it's brilliant. Then I ask myself the question, why is Africa still in this state? So I ask you, you've just told me about this, you know, great plans and the policies and acts that have been put in place for Ghana. Are we going to see real changes for the people of Ghana?
Well, funny, I posed that question in the session we had this morning, simply because I count myself as a man of action. You know, I've been in the system, I've been in the UN system, the whole system, and so I know how much talking we can do. But I must say, you know, in all fairness to this particular gathering, it is action-oriented, and I think UNIDO has positioned itself very well.
Yes.
At this particular historical time, to be able to help Africa do less talking and more action. Now, I say this because the notion, as I have referred to this third industrialization, is really the opportunity for Africa. Here we are, growth is flat in our traditional areas of the developed world. We are creeping up to the same growth as we have in the Asian tigers in the Asia Pacific region. And so it is now or never. We have to take advantage of this. Now, how do we do this? First of all, I think it requires a mental shift. A shift.
The paradigm shift that everybody's talking about.
And yes, but also to move away from the donor kind of begging bowl, if I may say so.
Please do say so.
Attitude to a point where, like you and I are sitting here as equal partners across the table, where we can clearly articulate our long-term vision, aims, and desires, and negotiate, and sometimes negotiate rather forcefully across the table, particularly at a time when the best returns you can get on FDI are in Africa.
Absolutely.
Today. So what is there to fear? What is there to sort of say, oh please, may I have? Let's sit down. And after 50 years and more of independence, we have the human resources. That's the point I was making. We have the leadership. We have the human resources. What we require now is the confidence and the commitment to sit at the negotiating table as equal partners to really demand what we want in the economic, social, and indeed even moral leadership for Africa.
Interesting you should say that, because the minister from Guinea actually talked about the donor, forming the relationship and, taking from the donor and all of that. But it's also good to hear your take on the issue of moving away from the donor, the begging bowl, as it were, that Africa has been doing for a long time. But let me now come to this. How is Ghana including the vast number of Ghanaians that are in the diaspora? Does Ghana have any plans to bring them on board into, because most of what we've discussed is talking about job creation and it's going to need expertise. And I'm not saying that Ghanaians in Ghana are not experts, but I believe that they will probably benefit from some of the experience of the Ghanaian diaspora. How is Ghana including them in all of these major plans?
Well, first of all, Ghana has a very large diaspora, not least, of course, the border in Nigeria.
I know a whole lot of them in London.
In London, I think when Elizabeth visited Ghana, she said there were close to 500,000 Ghanaians in the UK, in the US,
wow.
in Europe. So we have a very large and growing diaspora. I think there's two levels at which we look at the diaspora. Of course, we've been getting, first of all, we've been getting in terms of remittances. That has taken off a little bit with the global downturn, but it's very significant. It's one of the, second or third source of foreign currency. So there's that aspect of it. But then there's the more important human resource aspect, making it attractive for entrepreneurs and people with experience and people with different skills. And it's not today, it's happening. You go to a bar today, you see obvious signs of returnees who are coming. Number one time it was newspaper articles involving their loans at the weekend. These gated communities. But more serious note, what government is trying to do is to lay ground rules to make it possible for those people who have entrepreneurial skills, experience, engineering skills to come and vigorously take part in it. Now, the other day I had some my own constituents, I'm a member of Parliament, told me I'm from the and I found a way of leaving the weight of other things. Wow. And one of the things that we need to do is to negotiate with the international organizations to make sure that the same expert conditions can be enjoyed when they return, because we need them, and it makes sense to have them here, because when you come to Ghana, you will need to get in taxes, remittances, consumed in Ghana. So these are some of the conditions I think that we need to make sure that we sit across the table, particularly in capacity, to make sure that we don't reinvent the wheel, but that we use existing government expertise back in Ghana. There is a tendency sometimes that as a people we become a little bit suspicious of our own kind when they've been outside for a long time. And I think that these are things that can be gradually changed, perhaps not as a matter of policy, but as a matter of what the media does, what churches do, the direct benefits that you have bringing Ghanaians home, as opposed to maybe having a large influence on foreigners.
Now, back to UNIDO very quickly. What I noticed, and I'm sure you probably noticed earlier, UNIDO under the DG's office, current DG, has succeeded very highly in, the growth, as we were told, was 250%. Now, and a lot of the things they're doing it with the Asia, Pacific, and South America. Can we rightly expect that Ghana will be one of those countries that will be mentioned in the next 2 years when we return to UNIDO?
I think so, because if I take Ghana, for example, there's the initiative of 3 ADI agribusiness. For example, Ghana is into a very good partnership with UNIDO, expanding cotton growth. For the vertical integration of cotton into African islands and so on. This year alone, with support from UNIDO, we are hoping to increase the amount of
Okay.
And I think that is just a small example. And I mentioned the example of the competitiveness of the Chinese which, by the way, we're hoping to build on and make it a just need to program that in, for example, tomorrow it's a modality to handle something similar in terms of technology, in terms of trade, industry, and creation and evaluation to normal artisanal work. That is going to be the basis for our manufacturing system.
Sir, it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to Ghana being one of the success stories again in the next 2 years when UNIDO returns for another conference. Thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Have a good day. Thanks. Bye.